Hey guys, welcome to my Week 16 NFL predictions video. We'll be breaking down every single game for Week 16 of the NFL season. Who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what we predict the final score will be. So hit that like button and subscribe. We have some pretty good games this weekend. Basically, every single week that we get closer and closer to the playoffs, the games get better and better because they're becoming more impactful right now because teams are vying and fighting for the best position in the playoffs. Kicking things off Thursday night, December 21st at 8:15 on Prime. We have the 7-7 Saints versus the 7-7 Rams. The Rams come into this game as 4-point favorites here. So with this game, you have the Rams as the favorite, but both teams right now are both fighting for a spot in the playoffs. So they both need this win. That's what's the big thing for these last 3 to 4 weeks of the NFL season is there's a lot of teams fighting for playoff spots. There's a lot of 500 teams, and they basically need to win every single game. So these two teams, they're both fighting to get to 8 wins first. You have the Saints. So the Saints did get a win this past weekend. They've basically been relying on their defense, but the whole problem, the whole season has been the offense. Derek Carr has not been pushing the ball vertically down the field. He's been doing a lot of short dink and dunk passes. But this roster is technically a lot better than a 7-7 roster. And for the Rams, they sit at 7-7. Defense has had some holes this season, but it's actually the offense led by Stafford that has been carrying everything so far this season. So he's been throwing for a lot of yards, probably the last 4 to 5 weeks. They've been going off. He has Nakua, he has Cooper Kupp, so he has the weapons to vertically challenge the Saints down the field. Looking at some of these team stats here, the Saints come in, they average 22.1 points per game. The Rams average 23.4 points per game. But the Saints have the better defense, so they give up 19.1 points per game, and the Rams give up 22.1 points per game. So the teams are virtually tied on the offensive side, but the Saints do have the better defense, but the Rams are at home. They have the hot hand right now. They are favored. I have the Rams winning this game 28-21 and covering the spread. We'll now be moving on to our Saturday, December 23rd slate of games. At 4:30 p.m. on NBC, we have the 8-6 Cincinnati Bengals versus the 7-7 Pittsburgh Steelers. So Cincinnati comes into this game. They are 2-point favorites. When you're looking at these two teams, so both teams have had a lot of injuries. For the Bengals, so they're 8-6 right now. They're technically in line to the playoffs without Joe Burrow. So Burrow did get hurt. They have Jake Browning, who stepped in as the starting quarterback, and he's been going off. He has actually been outplaying Burrow so far this season, having a very strong season. Last week, he didn't do as well, but before that, the last 2 to 3 weeks, he played really good, threw for over 300 yards every single one of those games. So he's been going off. For the Steelers, their main issue has been the offense. They have a really good defense led by TJ Watt, but the offense, no matter who starts at quarterback, they've been cycling 3 guys in there. Doesn't matter. Starter Kenny Pickett's been horrible. Second, third string, it's all bad. Looking at the team stats here, the Bengals average 21.9 points per game. Some of that's with Joe Burrow, some of that's with Jake Browning, and the Steelers average a very low 15.9 points per game. Like we said, their issue is the offense, but they haven't had a good offense since Ben Roethlisberger. So it's been the same issue every single season. Like we said, they're only averaging 15.9 points as of right now on the defensive side. So the Bengals give up 22.2 points per game there, and Pittsburgh gives up 20.0 points per game, which that's actually not bad since the defense can't get off the field the whole game because the offense just doesn't get first downs. So we do have the Steelers. They are the underdogs here. Cincinnati is a 2-point favorite. I have Cincinnati getting the win. Even though the offense did not play as well this past week, and prior to that, Jake Browning has been playing really good. They have Mixon at running back. They have Chase at wide receiver. So they have the better quarterback play. They have the better running back. They have the better wide receiver core. So I have the Bengals winning 24-20 and covering the spread. The next game that we'll be looking at is at 8 p.m. on Peacock. We have the 8-6 Buffalo Bills versus the 5-9 Chargers. And the Buffalo Bills are 12-point favorites here. So that's a pretty big spread with these two teams. So prior to this season starting, this would have been one of the best games of the season because this would have been Josh Allen versus Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert did get hurt. Staley got fired. Chargers completely fell off the rails. Staley got fired a year too late. I was saying last season that he should have gotten fired last year. There was no point keeping him on, but he's now gone. Chargers, basically, they just want to lose out from this point forward. They don't have Herbert. They don't have Mike Williams. They've been banged up. Eckler has been hurt pretty much the whole season. So just try to get a top 10 pick as of right now. Try to cap out at 5 wins. Try to get a top 10 pick. Try to draft someone really good. There's a lot of holes on this team. They have holes on the offense. They have a lot of holes on the defense. For the Bills, they are coming off of a beatdown of Dallas Cowboys. I said last week, do not underestimate the Bills. They have a top 10 offense. They have a top 10 defense. They're a very physical team. They are a very talented team. Their main issue has been whenever the offense plays well, the defense plays bad. Whenever the defense plays well, the offense plays bad. So the main thing was just trying to get them on the same page, the same game. That did happen this past week, and they beat the brakes off of the hot Dallas Cowboys. And the way the Bills beat them, they didn't need to use Josh Allen. So they basically just focused on Cook, and they just ran the ball down the Cowboys' throat. Looking at the team stats here, these teams couldn't be any different. So the Bills come in, they average 27.1 points per game. The Chargers are averaging 21.6 points per game, and that was with Justin Herbert. And on defense, the Bills give up 18.1 points per game. Chargers give up 24.6 points per game. So the average person would say this game should in no way be close. Bills are hot right now. Chargers are just going down the drain. This is the NFL, so anything can happen. But I have the Bills getting a comfortable win here. 28-13 and covering that spread. The next game that we'll be looking at, we are now moving on to our Sunday slate of games. So it's Sunday, December 24th at 1 p.m. on Fox. We have the 8-6 Colts versus the 6-8 Falcons. The Falcons are 1-point favorites here. So for the Colts are in the playoff hunt. They are in the division hunt also. They are at the top of their game right now. They're playing really hot. They lost Anthony Richardson at the very beginning of the season. Gardner Minshew has filled in perfectly. I've been saying the whole year, Gardner Minshew, there's good Gardner, there's bad Gardner, and there's zero middle. But he's basically been pretty good Gardner the whole season. He has had some bad games, but he's carrying this team right now. But they also have one of the deepest running back rooms in the country. They have Zach Moss, and they should be getting Jonathan Taylor back this weekend. That's a massive pickup for them to get him back. So they have probably the best 1-2 punch in the running back room right now. They also have Pittman at wide receiver, so they can throw it, they can run it, they have pass catchers. Defense has some problems, but they're moving the ball and they're scoring a lot of points. With the Falcons' biggest issue is Ritter. Basically, they just have no quarterback. They have no one to get the ball to their playmakers. They have been playing pretty well for the last few weeks, but that's in spite of Ritter. If they had a top 10 quarterback, this is a team that's right now probably 8-6 right now. They have Bijan Robinson, they have Drake London, they have Kyle Pitts, so they have the weapons there. They just don't have the quarterback, and that's the most important position. Looking at the team stats here, the Colts average 24.6 points per game. The Falcons average 18.4 points per game. And on defense, the Colts give up 24.4 points per game, and the Falcons give up 19.9 points per game. So the Falcons are the 1-point favorites, but I'm going to go with the +1. I just think that the Colts have been really hot. I have the Colts winning this game 24-20. Like I said, I'm going with that +1. The next game that we'll be looking at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 7-7 Seattle Seahawks versus the 5-9 Tennessee Titans. Seattle is 2.5-point favorites here. So obviously Seattle is the favorite here right now. They are coming off of that massive win versus the Eagles, and that was without Geno Smith. So props to them there. Seattle's defense has actually been playing pretty good for the last, I'd say, about 2 to 3 weeks. So that has given some breathing room to the offense to be able to push the ball down the field because the defense has been playing so well. For the Titans, Will Levis is banged up. They do still have Derrick Henry, so they can still run the ball. And their defense does show up periodically. This is a pretty decent team, but just like a lot of teams, the main issue is the offense. So when you're looking at the team stats here, the Seahawks come in, they're averaging 21.4 points per game. Tennessee averages 18.2 points per game. And on defense, Seattle gives up 23.9 points per game, and Tennessee gives up 21.5 points per game. But Seattle is hot right now, so they have the hot hand. But Seattle is one of those teams that plays really good, and then the very next weekend, they completely lay an egg. So you really just don't know which Seattle's going to show up. And does Geno Smith start? He was cleared this past weekend, but he didn't start. So is he no longer the starting quarterback? We don't really know right now, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks to get the win. They are 2.5-point favorites. I have Seattle winning 20-17, and I'm also going to go with them covering that spread as well. The next game that we'll be looking at 1 p.m. on Fox, we have the 10-4 Detroit Lions versus the 7-7 Minnesota Vikings, and Detroit is 3.5-point favorites here. The Lions. So the Lions started out the year really hot, and they kind of went through about a 5 to 6 week period where the defense was playing really bad and the offense had a lot of turnovers. Jared Goff has played better the last 2 weeks, so that's one of the main things there. For the Vikings are one of the most beat up, hurt teams in the country right now. They lost Kirk Cousins, they lost Justin Jefferson for a long time, they got Josh Dobbs in, he had some good games, and he was a complete disaster. So they've probably played 3 or 4 different quarterbacks this season. They lost their best wide receiver, and they're still in it. They're still technically, possibly in the playoff hunt. They're 500 right now, even with all of those problems. When you look at the team stats here, the Lions are averaging 27.3 points per game. They have a top 10 offense, and Minnesota averages 20.7 points per game. And on defense, Detroit, like we said, the defense has played bad the whole second half of the season, but it did play better the last 2 weeks. But they're giving up 23.6 points per game. Minnesota has a pretty decent defense. They're giving up 19.2 points per game. But the Lions have the better roster. They have Goff. They have Montgomery at running back. They have St. Brown at wide receiver. So I'm going to go with the Lions to get the win on the road. I have them winning 28-20 and covering the spread. The next game that we'll be looking at is at 1 p.m. on CBS. And this is a tough game. This is a really tough game to call because both of these teams are not very good. We have the 4-10 Washington Commanders versus the 5-9 New York Jets. The Jets are 3-point favorites here. I was saying it's kind of hard to pick one of these teams because both of the teams are not good. So this game is just basically a who's going to stink the least. And that's a really hard game to call. So the Jets, they have Zach Wilson. He comes out, he throws for 350 yards. I said, I'm not buying it. The very next week, they completely get shut out by the Dolphins. What was the score? 30-0. So that was a complete farce. He got hurt. Rodgers is cleared, but he's not playing. They have Trevor Siemian could start. So we don't even know who will be starting at quarterback, but it doesn't really matter because no matter who they roll out there, they're not very good. Now, Rodgers is good, but they're not going to play Rodgers at this point of the season. There's no point in playing him. They're not going to make the playoffs. For the Commanders, they still have Sam Howell. So Sam Howell's still the starting quarterback. He can throw for a lot of yards, but he's the most beat up, most sacked quarterback in the country. And the Washington Commanders defense is just completely pathetic. Ron Rivera will definitely be fired the minute that the season ends. When you look at the team stats here, the Commanders, they're averaging 20.1 points per game. The Jets, a very, very lowly 14.4 points per game. And on defense, Washington gives up a whopping 30.2 points per game. That's right. 30.2 points per game. And the Jets give up 20.5 points per game. This is a tough game to call. It could go either way. Jets are the favorite. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm not confident in this at all. I don't want anything to do with this game because both teams are bad. I have the Commanders winning 17-14. So I'm going to go with that +3. But the Jets can win this game because the Jets still have a really good defense. They can get turnovers. They can pressure Sam Howell, but I'm going to go with the Commanders getting the upset win. But it's really not an upset because both teams stink. The next game that we'll be looking at 1 p.m. on Fox, we have the 6-8 Green Bay Packers visiting the 2-12 Carolina Panthers. Green Bay is 5-point favorites here. So the Packers, Jordan Love, he came out. He's been having a really good second half of the season, definitely playing better than the first half, but he's kind of fallen off the last 2 weeks. But the Packers have a pretty decent team with a pretty decent rush defense. With the Panthers, Bryce Young, they had one win up to this past weekend. They did get their second win, so props to them. Now, I'm not buying that as them turning things around because they're 2-12, so they're having a really bad year. They have no first-round picks, so they have no reason to try to lose games because they're not going to get rewarded with a top pick. They need to fight. They need to try to win for Bryce Young, but they did fire their coach this year, so they are leaderless, and this is not a good roster at all, and they really don't have any way to build it because they don't have any first-round picks. Looking at the total team stats here, Green Bay averages 21.4 points per game, and Carolina averages 14.7 points a game, so a pretty bad offense. And on defense, Green Bay gives up 21.5 points per game, and the Panthers give up 24.9 points per game. So the Packers are coming into this game as a favorite. I have them having a very comfortable win here, winning 31-20, so scoring a lot of points and covering that spread. The next game that we're looking at, 1 p.m. on CBS, the 9-5 Cleveland Browns. What about those Browns sitting at 9-5? And they'll be playing the 8-6 Texans. Cleveland is 2.5-point favorites here. The Browns, we know what happened to them. They lost to Deshaun Watson. That wasn't really a big loss because he was stinking this year, and he's been pretty much hurt the whole season, so they're kind of used to him not playing. They lost Chubb, but they've picked up right where they left off. So Flacco gets signed out of nowhere. The guy comes in. Flacco has been going off, having a great, well, he had a bad game, but for the most part, he's been playing pretty strong. So you know you can win with Flacco. Flacco won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. Was that back in 2010 to 2012-ish? He didn't do anything to win that Super Bowl. They won off of having a really good defense, and Flacco knows play smart. Just get first downs. Don't do anything to try to win the game. Just don't do anything to lose the game. Flacco can do that with this team. He has playmakers. He knows he can rely on the defense to keep the score low, and he only has to score about 20 to 24 points per game, and they can beat any team technically just based off of their defense. For the Texans, CJ Stroud, he has been banged up. We don't know if he's going to be playing this Sunday. So as of right now, we can't fully rely on him playing. If he plays, that definitely gives the Texans a big edge at the quarterback position because you have him and you have Collins at wide receiver. So they can definitely push the ball vertically. Looking at the team stats here, the Browns average 22.1 points per game. The Texans average 21.9 points per game. And on defense, Cleveland gives up 20.6 points per game. Houston gives up 21.1 points per game. Cleveland just has the better roster. They have the better defense. If Flacco plays smart, just throw for 200 to 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, they can win this game. They have Ford. They have Amari Cooper. They have Njoku. They have the playmakers there. I have the Browns getting the win. I have them winning 24-20 and covering the spread. The next game that we're looking at 4:05 p.m. on CBS, we have the 8-6 Jacksonville Jaguars versus the 7-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is 1-point favorites here. So this is another one of those games where everyone's around 500 and they still technically could have their playoff hopes still available to them. For Jacksonville, they're riding, a 3-game losing streak by now? They've completely fallen off the rails. They have problems on defense. They also have problems on offense with turnovers. Trevor Lawrence has been banged up the whole season. We don't know if he's been cleared to play as of right now this Sunday. I'm going to say that he plays, but if he doesn't play, that definitely changes things with this game. For Tampa Bay, you have Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's just like Gardner Minshew. Good Baker, bad Baker, zero middle ground. You've pretty much been getting Baker steadily every single week this season. The only reason that they lose is sometimes if the defense gets blown out. But he is actually having a pretty strong season so far. This is his best season since probably his rookie year. Tampa Bay, they are 1-point favorites here. Looking at the team stats here, Jacksonville averages 22.8 points per game. Tampa Bay averages 21.1 points per game. And on defense, the Jags give up 22.4 points per game. Tampa Bay gives up 20.7 points per game. With Jacksonville, they did have a pretty big lead in the division. Now they find themselves tied. The division out of nowhere got really tough. Jacksonville cannot afford to lose this game or they could potentially miss the playoffs. That's how important this is right now. They are riding that losing streak. I'm making my prediction based off of Trevor Lawrence playing. So I have the Jags winning. I have them winning 27-21. So I'm going with that +1 here. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, flip that. I have the Bucs winning the game. But as of right now, because he hasn't been fully rolled out, I'm going to guess that he's playing. If he's not, though, Tampa Bay gets the win, and the Jags just continue to spiral, basically. Next game we're looking at 4:25 p.m. on Fox, we have the 3-11 Cardinals visiting the 5-9 Chicago Bears. Chicago is 4.5-point favorites here. The Cardinals, they do have Kyler Murray back. So you're going to have 2 quarterbacks that can sling it, 2 quarterbacks that can run around and scramble. Kyler Murray will be doing everything that he can to get first downs with his legs. But the Bears defense has actually played pretty well recently. So they're going to be looking to basically bottle him up and force him to have to push the ball down the field. He can definitely do that, but the Cardinals don't have a lot of playmakers. So he is going to have to make a lot of things happen personally with his own legs and with his own arm. For the Bears, Justin Fields should be playing this game. A lot of people have the Bears getting a top 5 pick, drafting a quarterback. We don't really know what they're going to do right now. Do they want to go with Justin Fields? Are they going to perhaps trade him somewhere? So is he trade bait? What's going on with the Bears? We don't know yet, but as of right now, Justin Fields has actually had a pretty strong season, the games that he played. He is a fantasy dream usually because he runs and he also throws for like 60 to 80 yards. Runs for about 60 to 80 yards per game. He didn't have a good week this past weekend, but he's kind of iffy. You know, he's not a good quarterback, but he's a decent quarterback. So they might get a good draft return for him, but we don't know what their plan is going forward. Looking at the total team stats here. So the Bears are coming in. They're averaging 20.5 points per game. The Cardinals, 18.5 points per game. But the Cardinals have a pretty bad defense. They're giving up 26.9 points per game. So there will be room there for the Bears to get first downs and to be pushing the ball. The Bears give up 23.5 points per game. Bears are 4.5-point favorites. I have the Bears getting the win at home, 27-24. So getting the win in a close one and not covering the spread. The next game that we're looking at, one of the best games of the season to me so far, at 4:25 p.m. on Fox. We have the 10-4 Dallas Cowboys visiting the 10-4 Miami Dolphins. Both teams 10-4, both teams fighting for the mantle of trying to be considered one of the top 3 teams in the country right now. Miami is 1.5-point favorites here. So this game is virtually a pick-em. This is the number 2 offense in the Cowboys versus the number 1 offense in the Dolphins. Really close offenses here. They have a lot of playmakers. They can light things up. So Dolphins are coming off of shutting out the Jets 30-0, and the Cowboys are coming off of getting the brakes beaten off them this past weekend by the Bills. So, but both teams are very much in it, and the Cowboys have a really good defense. So do not underestimate them coming off of that loss. When you look at the team stats here, the Cowboys average 30.8 points per game, number 2 offense, and the Dolphins average 31.5 points per game, the number 1 offense. So they're virtually tied there. And on defense, the Cowboys have a very good defense. They give up 18.9 points per game. Miami gives up 21.0 points per game. But Miami's defense has been playing a lot better the second half of the season, and they have a really good rush defense. So Miami, they're going to stack the line. They're going to force Prescott to have to throw the ball. That's the thing. Shut down Pollard, force Dak to have to beat you through the air, force him to have to push the ball to CeeDee Lamb's where Miami's secondary should be waiting. So that's Miami's goal. Miami has one of the most skilled offensive rosters in the country. They beat the Jets 30-0. They did that without Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill should be back this Sunday. You have Mostert, you have Achin, you have Hill, Waddle, Berrios. This team is loaded. They have a lot of playmakers. I have Miami getting the win here. Miami plays very well at home. They don't play over 500 teams well so far this season, but this is their chance to beat a good team at home where they play well. I have Miami winning 30-24 and covering the spread. But if the Dallas Cowboys won, I would not be surprised. But as of right now, I have the Dolphins getting the win. The final game for Sunday night at 8:15 p.m. on the NFL Network. We have the 3-1 New England Patriots versus the 7-7 Denver Broncos. Denver 6.5-point favorites here. The Patriots got a win over the Steelers. I don't know why they won it. I don't know why they wanted to win it. I don't think Kraft wants to win. I think Kraft wants to get a top pick. Them winning that third game hurt them immensely. I don't know what Bill Belichick was thinking. It was not worth it to get your third win and to be competitive. You need to be losing these games to make sure that you can draft a franchise quarterback with the number 1 pick. You have Caleb Williams, you have Drake May, a lot of quarterbacks there. Pick one. You have Mac Jones, Zappe. Are they the answers? Mac Jones, definitely not. Zappe's actually played pretty well the last few weeks, but come on, you have had him there for a while, and then now he's the answer. You should know what you had with him prior to Mac Jones beating him out. So that doesn't really make sense to me. He's not the answer there. Unless Bill Belichick's getting fired after this season, and he's just trying to win as many games as possible because he wants to catch up to Shula. I don't know that, But if he's going down, he's probably going to try to win as many games as possible. But Kraft, if he's staying, why do you want to win this games? But the Broncos actually have something to play for. They're 7-7. They want to get over 500. They have the way better team. Looking at the team stats here, New England averages a very pathetic 13.3 points per game. That's horrible. Denver at 21.7 points per game. On defense, the Patriots, they're not bad. They give up 21.4 points per game. Denver gives up 25.1 points per game. I have Denver getting the win here at home, 23-17. So I have them not covering the spread because they are 6.5-point favorites here. That line could potentially come down right now because the Patriots do have a pretty decent defense. But I have Denver, no matter what, getting the win versus the Patriots. The next game we're now moving on to Monday, December 25th. We have 3 Christmas Day games this week. So Monday at 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 6-8 Las Vegas Raiders versus the 9-5 Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas, 10-point favorites here. That's a pretty big spread with this game. The Raiders are one of those teams you just don't know what you're getting with them. So they get shut out one week. They score 0 points. Next week, they put 62 or 63 points. So what do you make of that? 0, 62. Which Raiders team is it? I'm going to go with like a 15 to 20 point Raiders team because that's about what they scored. They do not have a good offense really at all. They have playmakers there. They have a really good roster. They did fire their coach. They have Pierce as the coach right now filling in. Could he potentially be the coach going forward? Possibly, but he needs to win. So he is looking to win these games competitively because he wants that job. The players want him to get the job, so they are fighting for him. So that gives them something to fight for, something to play for. But they don't have a quarterback. That's the biggest thing holding them back is they don't have anyone that's a great quarterback. Chiefs have a top 5 defense. They get after the quarterback. They hit quarterbacks, sack them. The main thing carrying this Chiefs team is their defense. On offense, everybody outside of Kelsey has butterfingers. Tony drops every single pass. He's completely worthless, basically. They keep him on the team for some reason, but he drops 2 to 3 balls per game. It just is what it is. But they can run the ball. They have Pacheco. They still have Kelsey Rice. So they do have some playmakers there, but it's the defense carrying this team. This is a pretty big spread here. Looking at the total team stats here. So the Raiders average 18.9 points per game. Kansas City, 22.8 points per game. And on defense, Las Vegas doesn't have a bad defense. They only give up 20.0 points per game, but Kansas City has a really good defense. They give up 17.5 points per game. I have Kansas City getting the win here at home. Getting to 10 wins. I have them winning 27-17. So that's a push as of right now, but I would not be surprised if that line comes down by Monday. The next game that we're looking at, 4:30 p.m. on Fox on Christmas, the 5-9 New York Giants versus the 10-4 Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia's 12-point favorites here, so this is a pretty big spread with these teams. The Eagles are hurting right now. Hurts has been playing really bad so far this season. Well, he's not playing really bad. He's just not in any way playing good. He's definitely not having the season that he had last year. He has a lot of turnovers, but he has been hurt the whole season. He hurt his arm. He hurt his legs. He hasn't been able to be as mobile so far this season. And then sometimes they were running him too much. But they have a really good offense. They have a lot of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Defense has had a lot of holes this season. Giants, they have their completely own set of issues right now. They've had different quarterbacks playing. They had their defense play completely horrible. They had their defense play really good. Tommy DeVito, though, did light some spark in the Giants. He definitely can push the ball down the field. Plus, he's mobile with his legs. So that's completely changed things for the Giants. But this is really the game for the Eagles to get things back on track. They've been sliding. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now. Everyone thought that they were going to get it back on track this past week, but they lost to Seattle. Now's their chance. The season's about to end. You need to finish the season on a good note. So, looking at these team stats here, the Giants are coming in. They average just about as bad as the Patriots. They average 13.5 points per game, and the Eagles average 25.6 points per game. And on defense, the Giants give up 24.1 points per game. Philadelphia gives up 24.4 points a game, so they're virtually tied there. But the Eagles have the way better roster. They still have Hurts. This guy can run. He can throw it. He can play better, so he has to play better. They have Swift at running back. They have Brown. They have Smith. This is a really talented roster. I have the Eagles getting back into the win category, winning 30-17 and covering that spread. The next game that we're looking at is our final game of the week at 8:15 p.m. on ABC. The 11-3 Baltimore Ravens versus the 11-3 San Francisco 49ers. Both teams fighting to see who gets to 12 wins first in the NFL. San Francisco 5.5-point favorites here. This is a really good game. This is probably the two best teams in the country right now fighting for the number one spot. When you're looking at the team stats here, so Baltimore's coming in. These teams have top 10 offenses, top 10 defense. So Baltimore, they average 27.4 points per game. That's a top 5 offense. San Francisco, that's actually the number 4 offense. And San Francisco, they're the number 3 offense. They average 30.4 points per game. So 2 really good offenses. And on defense, we have 2 top 3 defenses. Baltimore gives up 16.1 points per game. San Francisco gives up 16.7 points per game. So these teams are virtually completely tied. This is a really good matchup. Top 5 offenses, top 5 defenses, fighting it out. Who's going to win? For the Ravens, they have an MVP candidate with Lamar Jackson. The guy's throwing it. He's running it. He's putting his team on his back, and he's carrying the whole offense on his own virtually. For the 49ers, Brock Purdy's having a great year, but this is probably the best NFL roster from top to bottom, and they just got better because they added Chase Young a couple weeks ago. So they got even better from what they started the year with. They have so many playmakers. They have Purdy, they have McCaffrey, they have Ayuk, they have Kittle. This team is loaded. They have Debo. They can throw it, they can run it, they can catch it. They have special teams. This game can go either way. But San Francisco right now, 5.5-point favorites. I have them winning this game, 24-20. My confidence level in that's about 50%. If Baltimore wins it 24-20, I would not be surprised at all. They're just as good as the 49ers. They're coming off of that win versus the Jags. But 49ers are probably the hottest team the whole second half of the season so far. So I have them getting the win. So that's my breakdown of the NFL Week 16 games of who's going to win and who's going to lose. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I'll make sure to respond. Thanks.